minute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bear Football here on the Bar Room Network. John Buffone alongside Aldo Gandia and Tyler Ellis. The Bears are put out of their misery. They lose on Sunday Night Football to the Green Bay Packers by a score of 41-25. Some garbage stats there at the end that kind of inflate the box score. If you're still awake or you decided to watch the end of that horrendous game, I appreciate you tuning in. If you're listening to the podcast version and maybe you didn't watch the rest of the game, don't be fooled by some of those stats that you see on the box score, or maybe some of those inflated fantasy scores that you might have by having Allen Robinson or David Montgomery on your roster. Gentlemen, overall, the word embarrassed is thrown around pretty liberally, but I would say this was an embarrassment. This was on national TV. The team gave up. And we can talk about the defense giving up because I thought there was some horrendous tackling. We can talk about the offense not doing enough. I think, Aldo, you made it pretty clear that the quarterback position is just a huge point of need, and the guys that they have now are not the guys that are going to lead them to anything, I mean, let alone a win. Let alone the playoffs, let alone what we saw tonight. So immediate reactions. Let's go around the horn. Aldo, go ahead.
Well, it's humiliating. And, for guys like the three of us and everyone watching in live and the people and the thousands more who will watch this in the coming day or two, we invest a lot into this team. This means a lot to us. And so when we don't see a return in investment of our time, of our passion, of our thinking and so forth, it's very frustrating. And so, I can't right now think analytically about the game because I'm so emotionally invested right now. And I apologize for my outburst during our halftime report, but that's where I'm at. I'm just emotionally exhausted. And I apologize for using this analogy, metaphor, whatever you call it, but I just feel like I have been on an intensive care unit for the last few weeks, and today, they finally just pulled the plug because I've had it with this team. I am at a point now where dramatic changes need to happen, and I would not mind seeing Matt Nagy fired tonight or tomorrow morning. I would not mind seeing what the Detroit Lions did, where they fired the GM and the coach. So, that's where we are at as an organization. That's where we are at as Chicago Bears fans. We have to stop kidding ourselves that Mitch Trubisky is the answer. He's not, at least not with the coaches and staff that's around him. This is just a fiasco. Let's remember that last year, this team lost 4 straight games, and then they won. This year, they lost 4 straight games, and then they lost. They didn't even lose. They were humiliated. And last year, after those 4 losses, they played the Detroit Lions, and they won. Next week, we played the Detroit Lions. Even if we beat the Detroit Lions, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a train wreck of epic proportions. And I'm not using hyperbole here. I am just talking as a fan that has watched this team for 5 decades, since the 1960s. Actually, that's more than 5. That's 7 decades. So I've been watching this team for a lot. So I speak from some experience and a lot of passion tonight when I say we have to ignite the whole thing and blow it up.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree with you, Aldo. But it's going to start from the top. We can shout our heads off. But this is going to have to come above Ryan Pace, because is Pace protecting the coach at this point? Let's just go from this game. It was an embarrassment. You're talking about after a bye week. After a bye week, this is what you do. This is what you all this time you had. All this time, and this is what you I mean, even in the second half, John, what did I say? Score and get a stop. We didn't score. It was a turnover. I don't know, punt, turnover. Like it was just like, what was the plan? I'm looking, I'm watching, I'm like, okay, let me see if I can imagine this. And then I'm like, give me an aerial view. Mitch, this John, I got what I wanted. I wanted Mitch to convince me. I got what I wanted, bruh. There's nothing I can say. At the quarterback position, you have to outwill. Donovan McNabb was good at this. He played outside the system. And so that's what a quarterback has to do in his league. Not in garbage time, but I was talking about like two, three drives in where you still had somewhat of a chance. It was an embarrassment. We got exposed on every single aspect. That includes, respectfully, I'm not going to call out one particular player, but Eddie Jackson is who's about to get paid. I expect more from a starting safety, just from a purely tackling perspective from our entire defense, John and Aldo. This was an embarrassment. For the fact that it was the Packers who struggled against the freaking Jaguars. The Jaguars almost beat these guys last week.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jags?
Well, here's the thing, and I always try to look at this holistically because I compare the Bears to the Packers, not because they're similar, but I think that standard needs to be met because they are your biggest rival. They are in your division. They are the ones that are constantly kicking your ass. And so when I look over this thing for the past decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, if you listen to my show earlier this week, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little repetitive, but I think it bears hammering down on this point. In 1990, the Bears won 6 of 7 decades against the Packers. Leading up to the 90s, they if you take the whole records in 7 decades, the Bears won 6 of 7 decades. And then in 1990 and 1991, they swept the Packers. So it looked like that trend was going to continue. And then what happened? They got 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacking and consistency at that position. And then after leading for 19 games going into 1990, now they're down 4 games in the series. When Brett Favre showed up in 1992, they only beat the Packers 3 more times in 8 years in the 90s. So it is worth showing that this team's inability to ever have any kind of consistency at the quarterback position is not only hindering them in this series against the Packers, it's hindering them from ever being a consistent contender for anything. Once again, the Bears held a 19-game lead heading into 1990, and now they're trailing in the series. So let's look at this. Let's look at this overall. That isn't just Matt Nagy's fault, or Mark Trestman's fault, or John Fox's fault, or even Ryan Pace's fault, or Phil Emery's fault, or Jerry Angelo's fault, or all of the first-round busts that you want to name, going from Rex Grossman down to Gabe Carini to Chris Williams, Rex Grossman. I already said him. Cedric Benson, Curtis Enos. Name them all. It's not all their fault for 30 years of not being able to be competitive in this. So whose fault is it? Is it the McCaskey family? Is it Ted Phillips, who's been running the ship for 30 years, who's a real good financial guru when it comes to making money, but maybe shouldn't be in charge of a lot of personnel decisions? This team just rests on its laurels. I said this earlier this week. Everyone talks about the 85 season like it just happened last year. We talk about the Monsters of the Midway and the Dick Butkus and Mike Singletary and the Super Bowl Shuffle like it just happened yesterday. We're talking about 35 years ago. So where's the change going to happen? When can it happen?
So
I don't know. Something needs to go. Something needs to happen, and it needs to happen now because I don't want to be Aldo's age when they get back to the Super Bowl. No offense.
None taken. Trust me. Go ahead, Tyler.
I mean, John. You're breaking that. He's reminding. I'm hoping he's reminding a lot of people about the Bears' history. And so, but the simple facts of the matter is, it's freaking football, bro. Just win the freaking game. When Kyle Shanahan left the Redskins, he went to San Francisco. He immediately implemented a system. All right, we don't got to make this thing harder than what it is. There's so many coaches that have gone somewhere and they changed the culture, and it's a winning culture. People forget that Bill Belichick was fired by 2 of the worst teams in the league before, and so he went to the and he developed a culture. When we got Nagy, we thought we were getting gold. We thought we was getting Bitcoin at the highest. That's what we thought we was getting. But it was like it's fool's gold. Respectfully, I can't even defend it anymore because what the Kansas City has improved since Matt Nagy left. Is that what it looks like? And so was just like, yo, John, forget about the offense. I'm not even blaming anybody right now. We look soft.
Yeah.
Bro, that was the Packers, bro. We look soft. I am going to put it on Nagy. I'm going to put it on Ryan Pace. We could talk about generations, but we let go. Lovie Smith, all due respect, we let go of people that we had hearts attached to. A new regime. This is Ryan from Ryan Pace down. This is on them. They've had blank checks. They've signed some checks. The Bears didn't spend no money. All of it started. So no. Who we paying the most? John, y'all had a great show this weekend. You and Alyssa. The outside linebacker dude who making most money this week from Dallas for no reason, making it $11 million.
Oh yeah, Robert Quinn is. If you look at the straight cash and how it's being dispersed this year, Robert Quinn's the highest paid guy on the team. For what?
We got outclassed. We got outclassed on every level. We had some good questions in the chat. Why didn't we run the ball more? The only reason, bro, is because we were down by 3 scores.
30 points.
We were down by real quick, because David Montgomery looked inspired. I'm like, I wish we were in a close of a game that Montgomery could have played in. And so it's like, it's 60 minutes, bro. It's that, man, like you said, John, we're not a good third quarter team, right? It's just from top to bottom. From top to bottom, I'm like Otto said, dog. Who's getting fired tomorrow? Because it's like something bad. At this point, he's just done.
I'm just tired of hearing about, well, we like what Nagy does and his players really come out and play for him. And, eventually, there's plenty of good character guys that I don't want coaching the Chicago Bears. There's plenty of guys that I would trust to build Hallis Hall that I don't want being the GM of the Chicago Bears. I'm tired of hearing about what the intangibles are that they bring, because they don't bring winning. I don't care. Yeah, they brought a culture. It's not a winning culture. Right. I'm tired of hearing about all this stuff that Nagy does well and Pace does well and what he's able to do. We see no development from anything. Yeah. Everyone wants to talk about how bad Adam Shaheen was, and he gets extended to Miami. Everyone talks about how terrible Trey Burton was. He's producing in Indianapolis. All these guys that hit the road. Leonard Floyd in Los Angeles, now playing he's going to have a career high in sacks. Maybe they weren't going to be transformational players, or they weren't going to be, top 5 at their position, but they cannot develop anybody on this team. They are incapable of bringing people along. Look at the quarterback. He hasn't gotten any better. So I understand that there's been some personnel problems as far as who they brought in, but they sure as hell can't develop who they draft either.
Yeah, and trying to be analytical about this game, one of the huge problems was, of course, is that the Bears defense didn't have an answer for Aaron Rodgers. And so the first 3 possessions, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers scored touchdowns. And so you're immediately in the hole. And so what I noticed from looking at the game is that the Bears were desperately missing the middle of their line, Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman, who hasn't played all season. But these Packers, the middle of their line, the center, and Corey Linsley, the center, was injured after a while, and he only played like a quarter and a half. But whoever was playing at center after that, and the 2 guards, Jenkins and a 6th round draft pick from the 2020 draft, John Runyon Jr., who I saw play at the Senior Bowl, and I was hoping that the Chicago Bears would invest in him because he was coached by Juan Castillo at Michigan in his senior year. And so there was that familiarity, but the Bears bypassed him. Well, he steps in for an injured offensive lineman for the Packers, and he had his way. And so the middle of this offensive line for the Packers was just pushing the Bears middle of their defensive line. And that includes that 6'7" McCullers guy, 350 pounds, 6'7". He was playing nose tackle. He was getting blown off the ball. He seemed like he was disinterested in playing, and he had a good first game with the Bears, but tonight he was annihilated by this Packers offensive line. And so that was the tone setter early in the game. And then you've got Rodgers getting rid of the ball quickly, the quick step drops and some of the defensive backs playing off of the receivers, and so Rodgers immediately sees that and he checks to the receiver and gets rid of the ball quickly, and so they methodically just move the ball down the field, and it becomes a back-breaking situation. It's like the Bears offense feels the pressure of having to score on the first series a touchdown, because if not, then it's 7-3, and score a touchdown in the second series, because if not, they missed the extra point. So the Packers did. So then it's 13-3, and so it's like an avalanche of stuff that happens. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for the Bears offense; they were pathetic in their own right. But my point is that the Bears, because they lost the battle at the line of scrimmage, Robert Quinn is just a waste of money. $30 million. That I bought some shoes the other day about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. They don't fit. I can't send them back. It's worse than that. It's much worse than that. This is just a horrible situation, and it just all points to the leadership of the organization, the Ryan Pace. Things have to change. Things have to change, because it's just not going to get any better this season. It's not going to happen.
Aldo, guys, you get to a point where the players aren't going to play for the coach anymore. You get to the point where you can only hear so much of the same thing, and sometimes you got to switch up. It got to come from a different voice. I mean, Johnson was so pumped up about the hit. He didn't see the freaking ball like this right next to him. He could have caught it and ran in for a pick six. That was in the third quarter. That was like in-game stuff. But instead of you doing that, like, you were so worried about the hit, they go down there and score anyway. It was just like there was no power with the tackling. From the jump, bro, from kickoff, from the first 3 possessions, I'm like, this is whatever, where I coach. Rodgers was calling our blitzes. He called it. He called the blitzes twice. He called screen twice, and then we missed the tackle. I never seen us get so much gas in the A gap. Like, Hakeem could ask for a deal. Hakeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman should get paid. But the piece has to be shown that with our drafts outside of quarterback, everything should go to the line, both sides of the line. Because Eddie Goldman, Hakeem Hicks, both sides of the line got to be attacked in the draft at some type of value. I don't know how you're going to spend that money. But from this game, we got destroyed in the second and third quarter where we didn't do nothing. They scored 21 in the third. They scored 14 in the third.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm about done talking about, salvaging this season, because I don't think it can be. I think that's done. So if we want to look at things for pool season right around the corner, if you want to talk about what can happen, if they beat Detroit, I think if they lose to the Lions next week, who just fired their coach, maybe that puts things into hyperdrive on jettisoning these guys. But if they beat the Lions and then they beat the Jaguars, and maybe, I don't think they can beat the Texans, but if they beat the Texans, so maybe they go 8-8, or maybe they go 7-9. Are we gonna run it back? Really? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to run it back. We'll bring back Pace. We'll bring back Nagy and say, you know what? You know who I trust to fix this? The same damn guys that ran it into the ground. Let's let them try to fix it. Let's let them draft the next quarterback. Let's let them evaluate the line. Let's let them go ahead and make the free agency decisions. I don't want them here anymore. I hate calling for people's jobs, because we have to understand that this is people's livelihood. But I honestly think these guys will get other jobs outside of the Bears, so they should be okay. But I am tired of saying let it just be the status quo, where, you know what, 8-8, maybe squeak in at 9-7. That's a pretty good season. No, it's not. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of just mediocrity being where we're shooting for. I'm tired of it being, well, if we can just do this, then maybe we can get by. And it starts with the people at the very top. I know that the Bears organization is making more money than they can even imagine. So maybe that's what they're worried about now. Making money, making sure that the bottom line isn't affected, making sure that you got people in there that you like Ted Phillips and Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. It's a good culture. We get along whenever we have meetings. They're good guys. We get along with them. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Your job, or at least your responsibility to the fans, is to win football games, and you're incapable of doing that right now because you put together a franchise starting with the GM down to the coach down to the personnel that is so dysfunctional and incapable of actually having consistent success that it needs to be blown up. And you're wasting another great defense from 2018 to now. You wasted it. You got one playoff game out of your window of opportunity. Your window of winning, you got one playoff game out of it, and you lost. So now you're thinking about, well, next year, do they got to start trading guys on the defense? Do they start building up draft capital? Do they go out and they trade a Khalil Mack? Do they trade Akeem Hicks? Do they try to get first-round picks? Even if they do, I don't want these clowns making the picks.
In all three phases, I thought it.
Sorry, guys. Got
them having the long
Coach
drive
Nagy at the podium here. Let me bring him in.
That's not how you want to start, but for us to then get the ball back and go down there and have a couple plays and have a 5-play drive and have it stall into 3 points instead of a touchdown. But again, that's football. So how can we recover from that? How can we get stops on defense and then be able to get in a rhythm and get touchdowns on offense? And obviously that didn't happen. And I just felt like they got after us the entire game from the first quarter to the very end. And that's basically where we're at right now. And talk to the guys in the locker room afterwards, and there's guys that care. I think that's what's important to us, but they care and they know that we got to do it on the field. It's not about what we say.
First up, Jason Leisure.
How was practice, Coach?
Matt, are you concerned about your job after a loss like this? And if not, how do you defend where the team is at right now?
No, I'm not. I just think that right now with our team, stuff through the season that you go through, and it's about fighting adversity. It's about building cultures and staying together, and that's where we're at. And so that's what I do. That's what our coaches do. That's what our players do. We stick together, and we understand where we're at, and that when you have games like this, you got to figure out. You got to soul search, and you got to be able to stop the bleeding. And there's a couple directions you can go, but my job as a leader is to make sure that they understand that. And
understand what?
The last 5 weeks, it's not fun. And because we all want to win, and we know that. But the one reason why I'm here is to fight and to lead, and that's what I think is most important.
You're here to win.
And when you go through these times, how do you respond? And I think that's the test of true character.
Pat Finley.
Matt, what did you think of Mitch's pick in the end zone and on the shot play there? And I'm also curious with the fumble, did he let the holding on the previous play bother him on the following play?
I don't think so. The shot into the end zone where Mooney got bumped a little bit, and not pass interference, but he got bumped, and the safety made a good play over the top, and it was a shot that we took. They made a good play on defense, and so sometimes that's what happens in this game. But I don't think that it affected the next play per se. But that's those type of deals right there. When you're playing a really good offense like we are, the turnovers are you just can't have those.
JJ.
Matt, how would you assess this game from Mitch, just kind of on first pass, with some of the ups and downs that he had today?
Yeah, I got to go back and see exactly some of the progressions in the reads where we were. I thought early on, I really, his eyes were going where my eyes were going, which is good, and he's going to where you want to go. And then after we were at 17, down 17, and then before you know it, you're down more, and now it becomes a one-dimensional game, and they know you're throwing. And so that's where I have to go back and just look at the progressions. But the turnovers for us is what we can't have. I just go back to the fast start is down in that red zone, being able to come away with a touchdown there would have been, really big for us. And to be able to, take the lead and go up 7-6, but instead we stalled with a field goal.
Brad Biggs.
Matt, you moved a bunch of guys around on the offensive line tonight. You had Leno. I guess two questions. One, looked like Leno was struggling with the toe a little bit. And then two, what went into a whole bunch of moving parts on the offensive line?
Well, again, just trying to figure out what's best, Brad, for us as a unit with where those guys are at specifically. Our guys there are really trying their damnedest to fit and to play as hard as they can. And I know Leno was really battling since that happened in the middle of the week to be able to do everything he can to get back for this game. And so I give him credit for that. But we were keeping a keen eye on it as well, just to make sure that it wasn't becoming a liability. But the rest of the guys up front there, I'll have to go back and see, with the calls that we made and the one-on-ones that we had and any of the breakdowns there. But for the most part, biggest thing, Brad, is that we're just trying to find that lineup between injuries and everything else that's going on, the best lineup that fits to where we can really, do well in the run game and then protect in the pass game.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, man, I know it's Aaron Rodgers and you guys were without Akeem, but how, were you processing that after a bye, with everybody, refreshed, that was kind of the defensive performance that occurred tonight? Yeah,
that's probably one of the most disappointing parts is just that, just how that kind of went for most of the game. But because against a quarterback like that, I think when you run the ball almost 40 times, 39 rushes, and you have a couple guys that have almost 20 rushes per guy and almost 100 yards, they're getting some yards there on the run, and you kind of felt that early on. And so that's where, again, our team has been relying on our defense, and they're not going to always play perfect. But today it was one of those ones where, again, that third and goal to start the game, that third and goal, he found Adams for a touchdown, and they had a 3rd and 20 later in the game and just running the ball. So I know our guys are frustrated about that on defense and are not happy about it.
Mark Potash.
I mean, the effect with, Goldman already out, the loss of Hicks was kind of a backbreaker. What did you think of his impact? The loss, the losing him had on top of everything else to your defense in this game. I know Rodgers makes a difference, but still, Akeem's a big part of your defense.
Sure. No, I mean, obviously, you guys all know, and we know, what type of player that Akeem is and where he's at and what he's been for this defense. And so, but at the same point in time, it gives an opportunity for other guys to step up, and that's their job as players. That's our job as coaches, is to coach them as best as we can and then have them executed. And I just felt like today, you really could feel the middle of our defense, which is going to affect some of the linebacker play, right? Because they're going to get up to the second level, and so then they hit a couple big plays on us. And overall, though, again, when you're going up against Aaron Rodgers, you got to be able to certainly stop the run and then not give him big plays.
A few more. Adam Hogue.
Hey, Matt, in the second half, it seemed like tackling was an issue probably throughout the game. But after the Packers' last touchdown, Tony Dungy even said in the broadcast that is the Bears' defense basically giving up here. So I guess my question is just, were you –
Disagree.
Were you happy with the effort?
They were trying to strip the ball for the entire game to help get the ball back on the offense. So it wasn't that they gave up.
The tackling there as the game went on got sloppy, and that's kind of what happens when they're being able to have successful runs and you're trying to make tackles and stop them for short gains on first down. And I'll never question our guys quitting. That's not one thing that I'll ever agree with anybody with guys quitting. So I would disagree with that. But our was the fundamentals of the tackling, could it be better? Sure, absolutely, without a doubt. But again, that's something that our players have to dig down deep and say enough's enough. And obviously we players and coaches didn't do that tonight.
Last one, guys.
Matt, you guys have talked a bunch throughout this losing streak about, soul searching and finding out who you are. As these losses sort of string together, what gives you confidence that people, the team still buy into the message as much as you want them to?
Because of who we are in our building. And
the hell does that mean?
You know, I believe in these guys.
The hell does that mean?
I don't know.
There you go.
I'm so tired. It's just, I mean, on one hand, I understand what is he supposed to say. He's gotten his ass handed to him 5 weeks in a row, but at the same time, he doesn't say anything in this, and it's the same. He has this Rolodex of responses. Never question our effort. We got a soul search, or we got a that's not who we are, or I got to go back and look at the tape, or I saw things a little differently. Like Aldo, I think you tweeted out earlier this week, there's Neggy-isms, and it's just like, he's like, okay, I got to punch this button. I got to go back and look at the tape on that one, and blah, 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 blah. We had a great week of practice, and, you know, looking over that, I got to go back and look at the tape. I'm so tired of this. You could literally play the same press conference every week and it would apply, because it's the same crap. And I'm frustrated because I have this gut feeling this is going to be next year. This is going to be he's going to be here next year, and we're going to be another year, and it's going to be another one of those John Fox situations where it's basically a lame duck coach, where, you know, it's playoffs or bust kind of thing, and you know the personnel's not good enough to get to the playoffs, so you know the coach is on his way out. So it's basically just a placeholder season whenever you could have a new regime in there trying to get things started on a rebuild. But no, let's let Matt Nagy have another 7-9 season, so then we can fire him and feel a little bit better about it. So it's frustrating because I see this happening again next year.
The biggest problem about it is, man, brother, you're more freaking upset than our dang head coach was. He wasn't even upset. Like, that's what bothers me the most. Like, where's accountability? Where was the dang plan to win? See where it's at, bro. Did you want to win the game? What was the plan? Like, tell me something went wrong. We didn't do this right. We didn't do this. Like, we had the whole Jim McMahon commercial, and I'm like, you get you charged up because you think you're gonna get some of that. And it's like, it's no. We were soft, dog. But look, our leadership is leadership. When there's no vision, the men perish. All right. And so it all comes back to leadership, man. There's no, you can't bubble wrap this crap. Hey John, it's not even about next year, bro. Hopefully, don't even wish that. Hopefully this is enough. If not that, then let the Lions beat us. I ain't gonna say but it's
they're gonna win 2 more games, or 3 more, maybe 3 more games. They're gonna win maybe 2 more games, and they're gonna say, well, Matt Nagy went from 12-4 to 8-8 to 7-9. I think he deserves another chance. If you just look at you're not looking at it right, because you're looking at a team getting progressively worse every year since he has been here, and it's gonna get worse and worse. It's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better, unless you start turning things around. And I'm not just talking about Matt Nagy, let's just start at the bottom. I'm not talking about the quarterback. I'm not talking about Matt Nagy. I'm not talking about Ryan Pace. I'm talking above that. And maybe it does. We have to have a talk about Ted Phillips a little bit. He can make all the money in the world for the Chicago Bears. Go ahead, handle all the finances. Let someone else pick the personnel people. Let someone else get football guys in there, because it's been 30 years of this. How long has it been? I saw Bears fans on Twitter saying, I can't believe it's been my entire lifetime that we haven't had a good offense. An entire lifetime without having a good, consistent offense. Who's pulling the strings on that? You can change the quarterback. I said this weeks ago. The motor's shot and we keep changing the tires. It's just, you're never going to go anywhere like that. You got to look at what the root of the problem is, and clear house completely and start over and actually build a franchise and build an organization that you see can actually consistently win. And I know the defense is good and it can keep us in ball games, but not like this. This is not how teams win right now. Whenever your top 5 or 6 or 7 top 5 paid guys are on the defensive side of the ball, then you better then you get what you pay for on the offense. And we're getting that right now. I'm just so tired of this.
Johnny, it's going to come back down to our talent, brother, and the talent and who's picking the talent. Is Ryan Pace going to get another first-round pick? Where are these picks going? You talked about Adam Shaheen, right? That was a second-round pick. He's catching touchdowns. in Miami. And so, like, who's picking the talent? Who's going to
not developing it? Not developing it.
Not developing it. Correct. But so it's like, but who's doing that? So we got to get a new GM. But guess what? Ryan Pace was highly sought after coming out of New Orleans. That was supposed to be a good find. But at the same time, Ryan Pace first time being a GM, right? First time GM picking a first time coach. But at the same time, Nagy was highly sought after. Hey, yo, I fell for it. I thought, like, yo, it got to be right. He was with Patrick Mahomes the whole season. Like, you would think something would transfer over. But then we got Mitch Trubisky. Now it really boggles my mind because now it's been John. I've seen a body of work. I've seen my full size from Mitch because you see Mitch in every capacity as a starter. Take it away, give it back to him. I want to see a fighter, and I'm not falling for the garbage time. I'm not falling for the garbage time stuff today. So it's like, who evaluated that talent that Mahomes was still available? I'm not going to put Deshaun Watson over Mitch Trubisky, but in terms of, I want my quarterback to fight for the game. Mahomes, what Mahomes did today against Brady, like those passes, I mean, you talk about a quarterback sliding FA gap, sliding back and just throwing over top of this, like things that, what'd you say? Talent evaluation. We don't got to get mad about it, bro, because somebody's job is on the line. So we'll be here cheering for our team, but it's like we just got to hope that Ted Phillips, they got to get the right gene in place.
Everything in place.
Back in 2014, when the Bears fired Mark Trestman in December of that year, George McCaskey said that Virginia McCaskey was pissed. Now, she was at the game today, so you got to believe that she was pissed today because that was humiliating for her, for the entire organization, and for the city of Chicago. So you have to wonder if she is talking to her son, George, and saying, George, what are you going to do? You know, this is the same team that I saw under Mark Trestman. That team went 5-11. This team is headed to 5-11. I'll tell you what, I saw a good portion of that Jaguars game, and Mike Glennon looks like he can beat the Chicago Bears right now.
Exactly.
Great.
Over 20 yards, 2 touchdowns.
So this could be, you know, a tremendous long losing streak for the Chicago Bears. So Virginia McCaskey has to speak up to her son, George McCaskey, and he has to act. And Ted Phillips isn't going anywhere because Ted Phillips has left all football operations decisions to Ryan Pace. And Ted Phillips is making this organization money. Now, you can say, well, you know, there are other organizations that have team presidents who are football people. And there is truth to that, and there is some legitimacy to that. But at the same time, if you are allowing your general manager to handle all football operations decisions, and that means hiring the coach, drafting the players, making all of the decisions to make sure that the players have all the resources needed to win football games, then it's highly unlikely Ted Phillips is going to take the bullet. The only way Ted Phillips is fired is if there's an uprising by the fans and they put a target on Ted Phillips. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that what is going to happen is Ted Phillips is going to remain, and he's going to probably hire a consultant, and they're going to pick another general manager and head coach. And so we're going to probably be in a vicious circle. So we'll see. What I'm hoping is that what will happen is that the Chicago Bears follow the lead of the Chicago Bulls, and that they've brought in a guy, the Bulls have brought in a guy with a track record of success, and they are bringing in high quality people into the organization. Maurice Cheeks is the assistant coach for the Chicago Bulls. He's a head coach quality guy. And so that's what you need with the Bulls. You need quality people in this organization, and it has to start tonight. Virginia, please. I know you're not listening. You're probably taking a nice nap in the back of the limousine on the way back to Chicago. Hopefully you're in bed tucked in. But please listen to what the fans are saying on social media. I'm sure you've got people calling you, Virginia. It's time to cut loose Ryan Pace, who you love like a son, and Matt Nagy, who you love like a nephew. It's time to say goodbye to these guys and start over.
Well, yeah, you even got the Chicago Bears social media team defecting at this point because they tweeted out, "We just tweet. we just tweet the score." They're the ones that say, "Don't tweet at us like we need to make it's like Ryan Pace running the Twitter account." So even the social media team is saying, "Hey, don't blame us. We just send out the tweets. We just tweet out the score and we just tweet out the story." So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But I mean, there's that story, and I want to make sure that I wanted to give credit to this. And I think it was our buddy Kaplan that was on the Under Center podcast talking about, or maybe on Hogan John's talking about, they interviewed Chris Ballard for the GM job, and he said that the first thing he was going to do was he was going to get rid of Jay Cutler, and he didn't want Ted Phillips making any personnel decisions. And they said, "Okay, thanks for coming in." And they went and they got Ryan Pace instead. And now look what look what Chris Ballard's doing in Indianapolis now. So that shows you that there is going to be some cronyism in here. There's going to be some loyalty things here where we get along with this guy, good office guy, doesn't make any waves. Also doesn't make any playoffs, doesn't win any championships, but that's okay. So I don't have very much confidence that there's going to be that there's going to make the right decision. And the right decision right now would be to overhaul this thing and start anew. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Should we wait around for Mitch Trubisky? I personally,
I don't care. I don't care.
I don't care either.
It's going to be the same thing over and over again. There's no point to just like to hear. He's not going to tell us what he's really feeling, and so it's like, come on. I mean, we saw it, but then for the coach to say his eyes went where my eyes went. What are you talking about? You saw him throwing the triple coverage? You was looking there too? You didn't see Allen Robinson underneath one-on-one? You didn't think that was the better option?
He's admitting that he's a bad quarterback too then.
Come on, man. But like, it comes back to leadership, man. Where's the accountability? You see what I'm saying? Josh McDaniels may be a jerk, but you know what? I bet you he has standards. You see what I'm saying? That's somebody who pushes his players to, there's a standard here. You see what I'm saying? And that's why. And watch what New England does in the offseason. Like let's just watch and see what New England does in the offseason. That's a good organization, I would say, to copy after without the cheating.
You know what? One of the things that's interesting is, Matt Nagy's first year, he takes the team to the playoffs. What was their record that year? They were 12-4. So they're 12-4, and then last season they get hit by the injury bug. Mitch Trubisky's progress regresses, in part, I think, for a lot of reasons. The offensive line didn't play as well. He suffered an injury and so forth. And then this offseason, it seemed like the team panicked. And so they spend big money on Jimmy Graham. They spend big money on Robert Quinn. It's almost as if management said, "You got to win now, Ryan Pace. You better go out there and win now. Spend the money that you need to, do whatever you need to, go out there and win," because the plan isn't cohesive. The plan isn't, you spent big money on Khalil Mack. Well, now you should try to, do something to complement him. And that's what they did. They complimented him with Robert Quinn, a guy who is really a down 4-3 defensive lineman.
Yeah.
And he's being asked to stand up. And a lot of people are saying, well, he plays down a lot. Yeah, but he's got to learn how to play up too. And so his mind that just doesn't work that way. He's taken on all these responsibilities on one play, a running play. It was a simple 6, 7, 8 yard running play for a first down. He was standing and he was slow to see the jet sweep. And the guy races past him. And to his credit, Quinn hustled and made the tackle, knocked him out of bounds. But it's not what he does. He's put your hand to the ground and just go rush the passer. He should be coming in on third downs, passing situations. But yet we pay $30 million for him so that he can be the opposite of Khalil Mack. So my point is, and I'm convoluted here. I apologize. But my point is that there isn't a strategic mindset by Ryan Pace on how to build a team. Jay Cutler, Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky. There's just mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. And it's time for a change. Bottom line, that's what I'm getting at. It's time for a change. Ryan Pace, you've had a great run of it, but your record is well under 500, and it's just not going to get any better with you at the helm. It's not.
There's these guys, and John, you're probably right. They probably will get a pass, and they're probably going to use COVID at some point in time because they're going to make a case. Hey, Mr. Ted Phillips, we didn't have Eddie Goldman because, and the sad thing is, if you inject Eddie Goldman, if you have Eddie Goldman and Akeem Hicks, I'm telling you, our defense is better. I know for a fact it is. And so, like a lot of these games, we lost a lot of games by less than a touchdown. And so, like Eddie Goldman, this game is very different with Eddie Goldman and with the A gap locked down tight. Now, that's not an excuse. I'm not giving him a pass, and I normally would because I still didn't see. I feel like a head coach, your players should still be prepared enough to at least. I just didn't see any fight. I didn't see the fight. I didn't see where's Kyle Fuller? I saw a couple fights. I want somebody to smack somebody, get upset. I don't know. Don't get a penalty, but just like something that shows emotion that you just don't that you care about this happening. Like it just. But I don't know, the team cares when the money gets hit. So the fans aren't going there. We got to do something. We got to, as a fan base, they're looking to us as a revenue stream, and so we got to do something to show our displeasure. Other than that, we just talking and go along because we're agreeing to it. We're saying it's okay. The more we spend money on it, and so it sucks because it's our favorite team. We love the team more than the individual, than more the player. So,
yeah, And although I think that you were correct in saying that there is no blueprint, there is no manual for how Ryan Pace is putting it together. It's basically like you're baking a cake and the batter tastes like garbage, so you just keep throwing extra crap in there, hoping that it fixes. Like, okay, let's throw some Mitch Trubisky in there. Oh, that's bitter. Let's throw some. We put that in to cover up the Mike Glennon. Throw some Nick Foles in there. Well, we started off with the Leonard Floyd. Can we throw in some Robert Quinn to give it some zing? Oh, no. How about let's mix in some Adam Shaheen. That's garbage. We got to get some new Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham in there. Let's pour that in there. And you just keep throwing crap in there, hoping that eventually the batter doesn't taste like crap. And then you're just like, oh, wow, we put so much stuff in here that I'm out of ingredients and my cake still tastes like crap. Oh, here we go. Eat it, fans. Here you go. And that's basically what it is. It's just chasing your tail. Band-Aid on Band-Aid on Band-Aid on Band-Aid, where there was never ever any kind of structure here. It was just like, let's throw a bunch of crap together. Oh, look, we got 12-4. Let's throw some more crap in there. Let's do it. The offensive line, forget about it. Let's get a lot of these guys on the one-year contracts. So the tight ends, we'll just keep drafting them and then switching them out. And the guys that I'm drafting aren't working out. Don't worry, we'll go spend a bunch of money in free agency. That'll fix it. And so you're never really getting better. You're just throwing Band-Aids on wounds and hoping that you can hold water. And it hasn't. And now we're sinking. I threw about 9,000 metaphors in there. We went from baking cakes to sinking on a ship, but I think that they're all very applicable in this situation.
They are. All right, guys, let's go around the horn, share some final thoughts and any plugs that we want for the rest of the week. I'll start with you, Tyler. What do you got, brother?
Final thoughts, man.
Even the always optimistic Tyler Ellis, my man, the games report, even he is totally demoralized.
Man, I was about to say go Bulls.
There you go. There you go. We're gonna win some games this year.
Man. Final thoughts is like what we talk about. They showing us who they are, man. So we just gotta accept it. I'm gonna accept it. I just gotta accept who they are, John. I love the underdog story. I love it. Acceptance is healthy. So I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to even try to figure this thing out in my head because it's their jobs on the line. You don't want to do it well? Okay. You know what? We have to find somebody to replace you. Respectfully, it sucks, but that's just the nature. It is a business. The same way they do players, we got to hold them to that standard as well. So, man, wrapping this up, it's going to be tons of coverage all week long. John and Alyssa, y'all had a great show last week, bro. I really appreciated y'all. I mean, Alyssa even talked about it. This was Mitch Trubisky auditioning for future teams. I think you guys talked about that, John. And so Mitch Trubisky can be a good backup. But in my opinion, I saw enough of the confused, goofy faces tonight, bro. You kind of showed me. I'm like, oh man, come on, Mitch. I can't defend that. And so I'm excited, John, because you know what? We gotta find a quarterback, bro. We gotta find a quarterback. We gotta find a coach. So I'm excited about those kind of things. So between that and I'm gonna just stay tuned all week long for Barroom Network. We got stuff popping up all week long. I'm sure you guys are gonna talk about it, but have a good week. Protect your peace. You know what I'm saying? Be productive outside of football. But this brings us together. I'm happy to chop it up with Aldo, you guys. We got plenty of coverage all week long.
I'll go next, John, and then you can finish it up and take us to the close. Greg Gabriel and David Schuster will be here tomorrow on our YouTube channel with their analysis of the game. It's going to be quite interesting because Greg Gabriel thought that this team was going to finish above 500. And so his estimation on how good this team was wrong. And then David Schuster is going to give him some heat on that because they've been going back and forth. But it's going to be interesting to listen to Greg Gabriel because he was the former scouting director for the Chicago Bears. So to get his analysis of what is wrong and then start turning the conversation into how we can fix it, if possible, for the rest of the season or for the long-term future, be interesting to get his thoughts. And then Dan Aguirre and myself with Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls will have that show a little later in the week. We've got a couple of basketball shows coming up with the Stacey King Gimme the Hot Sauce show that we're recording on Tuesday. That should be available Tuesday evening. And also Mark Shanowski and David Schuster go in depth with a lot of nerdy basketball talk, which basketball fans like Tyler and myself, we love that stuff. So we have that. We've got tons of stuff here on the Bears Barroom Radio Network and the Barroom Network. So let your friends know if they like Chicago sports. This is a good place to get some stuff. And just my final thoughts on the Chicago Bears is, it's over. It's over. It's time to blow this thing up. And I'm just hoping and praying that the Bears management realizes that. And, I saw John Jerkovich from ESPN 1000 put up a tweet saying, it's time for the McCaskies to sell the team. They probably are not going to do that because, well, if they're going to do it, it might be now because they're not going to make as much money as they have with the whole COVID. So their profit is going to take a big cut. So maybe they are going to be looking for a seller, but I doubt it. So what they have to do is just bring in somebody new to run the football operations and somebody new to work the sidelines. And whether it's tomorrow morning or whether it's at the end of the season, it just has to happen because what we saw there is just unacceptable. John, it's all yours.
Listen, I do not like the Green Bay Packers as a Chicago Bears fan, so I always take these losses a lot harder. And if I've only been on this earth for a little over 3 decades, so I've been used to watching the Bears lose to the Packers. So I said on Twitter during the game that you'd have to look at the record books or look at the history books to see when this was actually a competitive rivalry. So pick your poison when it comes to heartbreaks in the last 10, 15 years. The Chris Conte game, remember in week 17 of 2013, where Aaron Rodgers tossed it over, was 40-some yards over Chris Conte to Randall Cobb to win the game when Aaron Rodgers fumbled the ball and everyone just stood around and looked at it until Jarrett Boykin picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown. That was... The Bears had so many opportunities to win that game, and then they lost. Or how about the Jay Cutler stationary bike, the 2010 NFC Championship game with Caleb Henney, B.J. Raji? Those names should give you some nightmares. I think that the Packers actually beat the Bears in Week 17 before that to squeak into the playoffs, and then the Packers beat the Bears and end up going on to win the Super Bowl. And how about more recently, when you want to talk about Khalil Mack's debut with the Bears, when Aaron Rodgers came back from a 20-3 deficit, and I think that was Randall Cobb again. And if they would have beat the Packers in week 1, then they go 13-3 in 2018, then they get a first-round bye, and then they don't have the double-doink game against the Eagles. But that's neither here nor there. What my point is, I'm tired of always being on the other end of these stories. How many stories can Packers fans really give about the last 10, 15 years in the Bears rivalry where they say, oh, man, that was heartbreaking? We had one really significant win over them, and that was to clinch the 2018 NFC North. But if you ask a Packer fan, what's your biggest Bears heartache? unless they're 50, 60 years old, they're not going to have a whole bunch of stories for you. So I'm just tired of being on the other end of this. When the Bears used to dominate this rivalry, and now they're 5 games back. And it sucks because you see this team does the way that it's built now. There's no way that it could have sustained success. So I feel like now needs to be the time. We can't be like, well, give Nagy and Pace another year. Let's see what happens. We know what happens. This was supposed they overachieved in the first year, and it was exciting, and man, everyone was juiced up. And then you go into 2019, you said, oh, if they did that in 2018, imagine what they can do in 2019. Well, it kind of fell apart. Well, you're thinking, well, with the injuries, and Mitch is going to get pushed by Foles, or Foles is going to come in because he knows the system, and they're going to take off. And this is what we got. We were sold a bill of goods again. We were hoodwinked by a GM and a head coach again. I don't want it to be like this anymore. And I hope that they can finally find someone that can turn that around. I don't have a lot of evidence that they can, but I hope. And it's not going to be by keeping the same people around and bringing the band back together for one more tour for a lame duck season. We don't need any more lame duck seasons. We need building seasons where they're getting progressively better, not just throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. But as far as what's going on for the rest of the week, obviously my show, Buffone 55, will be on Wednesday. That's whenever we get to bring on somebody who covers the team the Bears will be going against this week. It'll be someone who covers the Detroit Lions. We'll see if the Bears can win a game. We'll see if the Bears are going to match up well against the Detroit Lions, who just fired their coach and GM. We'll see if the Bears follow suit in that regards, or they go out and they beat the Lions, or if they lose to the Lions. We'll see. Also, after some time of being able to look at some film, you're going to get some more of my breakdown of this game against the Packers. Not going to have to watch a lot of film to really figure out what went wrong when everything went wrong. But also we have a new episode of Pass the Mic Out that just got dropped at the end of this week. We had an incredible interview with Carolina Teague, who is a sports radio host in San Antonio. She's the first Latina to have her own sports radio show in San Antonio. And that was an incredible interview. She was so candid and she was so open about some of the struggles that she went through. Some of them are not easy to listen to, I'll be honest, but it is an important conversation to have. And these are the kind of conversations that aren't going to come up in regular sports radio or sports television or in the sports section in a newspaper or website. This is a show where these women can come on and talk about those struggles that they don't normally talk about, but they're important to have to show that this stuff's still going on in 2020. It's Pass the Mic. It's a show all about empowering female voices in sports media. It comes out every other week on the Barroom Network, something that Alyssa Barbieri and I are very, very proud of. But I think that we have about hit on everything that we can tonight. We've put out every emotion imaginable tonight, and there's going to be even more emotions tomorrow, and we'll see if there's any emotions being rattled in Hallis Hall. But that will do it for us for Bear Football. For Aldo Gandia and Tyler Ellis, I'm John Buffone. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Thank you.